In the previous video, we discussed the foibles befalling Warner Brothers and the DCU. But this time around, we can take a look at the problems that have begotten Disney and the MCU. Because, yeah, for as much as both franchises are in a very turbulent time, to say the least, they have very different issues. The DCU can't figure out exactly what to do, and that's been the case for a while. And as for Marvel, well, they've known what to do, and they've done, in fact, way too much, if we're being completely honest. And yeah, the whole idea that superhero fatigue is out there, and even if Marvel puts out something great, people aren't going to give it the time of day. But here's the thing, man, it's not superhero fatigue. It's not putting out too much stuff. It's putting out too much stuff of subpar. Actually, that's implying that there's something redeemable about it, of bad and poor quality. That's what they have been doing for the better part of a decade at this point in time, okay? What was the last time that something came out that was actually regarded as being well written? Okay, not something that was successful, because Deadpool and Wolverine was successful. Okay, does anybody look back on that and say, you know what, that was a really tight script and it did very good character work? Nope, it was a bunch of keys to jangle and it was wildly successful because of it. Spider-Man No Way Home, it did good work with the characters that it brought in. Okay, it had an excellent villain and Willem Dafoe reprising one of his seminal roles. Okay, you could say that, but then that also comes with a big asterisk of it being a Sony production, simply being funded by Disney. You kind of have to go back all the way to Infinity War, and that shit dropped in 2018. So yeah, it's been a minute, and somebody else also brought this to attention, and I kind of have to weigh everything up, but there has been more content released post-Endgame than prior to Endgame. That is wild to think about. And yeah, there is a point in time now with Marvel and with a lot of other franchises that are out there, and frankly, I can't think of one that hasn't been inflicted with this curse. There is more bad stuff under the umbrella of your chosen franchise than there is the good foundational seminal works that's there. Because even prior to Endgame, there were some catastrophic duds. Thor: The Dark World, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which all of them are better than the worst post-Endgame stuff, 100%. But the highs of Marvel's phases 1, 2, and 3 with Iron Man, the original Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War, yeah, it's vastly overshadowed by Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, every D+ show, and Captain Black Falcon, America Man. Oh, but Thunderbolts is really a good return to form, guys, but we'll talk about that very shortly. But as the Wall Street Journal, now this article has been making the rounds, and well, unfortunately we can't really read through it because the Wall Street Journal is, in the words of President Trump, a very bad outlet. Disney wanted more from Marvel. Now it wants less. We can just simply go off of the headline and the byline right here to let you know that, oh yeah, there's some trouble in paradise, if you will. The superhero studio is cutting back TV production and fixing its film slate after fans lost the plot. Oh, okay, cool. You're not blaming yourself for putting out awful content. You're blaming the fans. Oh, okay, cool. Just anything to protect Kevin Feige, bro. Kevin Feige reportedly told Marvel colleagues that watching every new MCU project had begun to feel more like homework than entertainment. Employees talk regularly about Marvel fatigue and worry they've created a no new fans club where new viewers had no clue what's going on, bro. Yeah, and that's from that article. One of the quotes that's from the body of that text. And honestly, okay, yeah, because if you needed to catch yourself up on everything going on with the Thunderbolts, you would have had to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You would have had to watch Black Widow, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain America, Brave New World. Hell, because Bucky's in there, you would have had to go back to the first Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, in order to get all of the appropriate context. But here's the thing, man. Okay, actually, there's a two-pronged approach to that. From the people that didn't watch most or all of that stuff, they had a generally a better and more positive reception of the characters had they known them from previous iterations. And also, it wouldn't have been those characters that they seen before in those original shows, because John Walker is very different very different than how he was originally portrayed. He's still a hero ultimately who did nothing wrong, but they just threw a bunch of character traits that were on him because the script required it, as opposed to the character that was originally built up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And same with Yelena, who used to be kind of plucky and jokey, is now just a depressing mess. It's like, where did that come in? That has also been the problem for a while. You sell this on, oh cool, yeah, you can get introduced to all these characters in these D+ shows, but if anybody goes back and watches them, which we have seen, that attrition rate has just legitimately never been there. Your fandom is not rewarded, and in fact is actively hindered. But here's the thing, there would be no Marvel fatigue if somebody went to the theater and thought, oh, there's more to this story. There's more I can learn about those characters by going on to Disney Plus and engaging with a whole TV show, like multiple hours of content with these characters that I like on the screen. Yeah, you wouldn't be running into Marvel fatigue, a no new fans club, if you were putting out good stuff, okay? I hate the whole superhero fatigue argument because who has been putting out superhero movies recently? Marvel and DC, Disney and Warner Brothers. What have they put out? Fucking garbage. It's bad movie fatigue. People see superheroes and associate it with shit storytelling. So if you did something good and didn't just simply kick the can down the road on fixing the actual problems, you wouldn't have to deal with all of these perceived issues. Bob Iger says the Thunderbolts is the first and best example of Marvel's new focus on quality over quantity. Bro, how many Marvel projects are coming out this year? When was this film greenlit? Yeah, no, it was very much made and very much conceptualized during the time when you were throwing everything out there. But how many years in a row now are we going on with Bob Iger saying, oh, we really need to focus on quality and not quantity? By consolidating a bit and having Marvel focus much more on their films, we believe that will result in better quality. Dude, take a look at the box office of this shit. Okay, fucking listen to yourself. Even just going back to that Wall Street Journal article. In his introduction to the screening that night, Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier, who is because of the artificial praise that this fucking shit movie is receiving, he's getting tapped for an X-Men movie. I can't wait. Oh, we'll have to discuss, because there's also been rumors, and I think that was alluded to in the Wall Street Journal article, that Kevin Feige has a 10-year plan for the X-Men. Oh, I just can't wait for that aspect of things I care about to get further destroyed. Oh my god. But anyways, when I first started on the movie, Kevin said, make it different. This weekend's box office receipts will show whether that's what Marvel fans want. Oh no, but everybody loved it. Critic scores and Rotten Tomato scores are really setting this one apart. Look at that box office, bro. The domestic. When was the last time you seen a Marvel movie have a higher domestic than international? This shit ain't doing fuck all. You might have a profitable. You might end up winning a second weekend in a row. Good for you. But then Disney's going to come along and take a big old fucking dump on your chest next week. And Mission Impossible, for anybody wanting to go out to see a fun action movie, yeah, they're going to go check out Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a fucking biplane. You are toast, brothers. $177 million worldwide box office. Wow, congratulations. Captain Black Falcon America, man, the one that was designated a fucking flop, did that in its first weekend. Stupid. We can just simply run the numbers on this one, and yeah, the Thunderbolts, the what did Kevin Feige refer to it as? Or I'm sorry, Bob Iger, first and best example, consolidating a bit, and oh god, see guys, it's so fantastic. And Kevin Feige wanted to make it a bit different, yeah, a bit different, by performing worse than everything. Captain Black Falcon America, man, had a better first weekend. Got released on a long weekend, President's Day long weekend, so that 11 million first Monday is a bit of an outlier. But the great word of mouth for the Thunderbolts, yeah, really cratered with a $5 million Monday, and people hanging out and wanting to see if this is worth their time based on, oh, it really tackles some sensitive issues and you're really going to like those characters. They waited until Cheap Tuesday to check it out, and it's still lagging behind everybody. It is still $18 million behind Captain America 4. Oh, but hey guys, by the time that you see this, I'm sure there's going to be some smooth brains that are out there that'll go ahead and tell you that with $177 million worldwide box office, it'll be over 80 by the time that you guys see this, theoretically. Oh, it'll have already made back its budget. Good for you. Hopefully you can pick up one of those collector's popcorn buckets when you go down to the theater. Yeah. Decide to stuff your face with popcorn instead of crayons for a nice change of pace. But I'll be interested to see, man, what that second week in release is going to look like. how quickly is it going to race to a 6-digit day? I could see it happening next week at some point in time, but we'll come back to that because somebody's going to have to answer for this failure, and specifically when the Fantastic Four comes out, because I don't see that thing doing well. I really don't see it doing well. For as much as they want to pump it up as being, super important to Doomsday, I definitely don't think it breaks $1 billion. And if Superman is even just a good film, I think it has a possibility to be firmly in third place of the big three releasing in July. Jurassic Park is definitely winning that head-to-head battle because Rancor Rex. I got to talk about some of the cringe that's coming off of that, which it's kind of interesting too, because I don't know if people are turning on that, but I still think that Jurassic World Rebirth is going to be the biggest film prior to Avatar coming out at the end of the year, at least in the action genre. Okay, I don't know how well Lilo and Stitch is going to do, but I really do think that thing's going to break $1 billion, but I digress. We got to talk about Marvel and all of its foibles, but the guy who's been in charge of this shit since after Civil War, okay, Kevin Feige, continues to shift the blame away from himself again as the MCU flops become undeniable. So harkening back to that Wall Street Journal article, Kevin Feige, long hailed as the mastermind behind the MCU, is now facing the harsh reality of a franchise in freefall. And instead of taking accountability, Feige is quietly trying to shift the blame anywhere that he can, to Disney, to streaming, even to the fans. A new Wall Street Journal profile conveniently dropped the same week the Thunderbolts collapsed at the box office with a $74.3 million opening, reveals a series of revealing admissions. That's kind of clunky, but all right. And insider accounts that suggest that the architect of the MCU is working overtime to distance himself from Marvel's recent failures. Yeah, okay, so the guy who's in charge of Marvel is trying to distance himself from Marvel. Interesting. So Feige reportedly told colleagues he only agreed to recent Marvel content overload because he wanted to support Disney's streaming ambitions. Right. But you could have made it good. Hell, you could have made it passable, but you didn't. Feige recently told colleagues he agreed to the plan because of a zealousness to tell more stories and desire to be an excellent corporate citizen. Anyways, this conveniently frames the MCU's bloated output as a noble sacrifice to the Disney C-suite rather than a miscalculation on the part of Feige. Yeah, literally. Okay, cool. They want you to make a bunch of stuff. That's fantastic. You have this weird thing in comics of like 80 fucking years of source material to adapt. And you think after all of these projects that have come out, you would have just struck gold once just by it's so staggering, right? Because we've just had this uninterrupted sequence of flop and failure and abomination for 6 years, 6 uninterrupted years at this point. Okay, you would have thought via the law of averages one of them would have been good, but no. On top of you recycling creatives that either haven't done anything beforehand or have worked on your previous failures, you just haven't done anything worthwhile, worth remembering. Oh, sure, people liked some of the stuff at the time. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness was loved for the first couple of weeks and then immediately fell off a cliff. Shang-Chi, Black Widow, well, the Eternals never really caught on to begin with, but that movie saved lives, literally saved lives. I don't know why you were so mean to the gay peoples. But okay, yeah, you couldn't hire directors, you couldn't hire writers or anything like that. No, you were doing it for Disney because they had boxes to tick, so you didn't really need to worry about the quality, just as long as, simple quotas were met. All right, Feige is not a powerless cog in the Disney machine. He is the single most powerful producer in Hollywood, and he had every chance to pump the brakes. Instead, he embraced the flood of content and rubber-stamped shows like Secret Invasion, which cost $212 million, by the way, and Ms. Marvel, which went on to tank with audiences. Yeah, nobody watched Ms. Marvel, and they even put it on ABC, and that shit got less than 100,000 viewers. Like, bro, what are we doing? The homework admission, yeah, the one that I previously talked about. Oh yeah, watching all the comic book giants and new TV shows and films had started to feel more like homework than entertainment. And yeah, when people did do the homework, which it never ever really bore out, simply looking at ratings and comparing that with box office, it's like a small percentage of people would have checked out said films, and or I'm sorry, said series and went to the theaters to check them out? How many people went and rewatched WandaVision prior to going to Multiverse of Madness? Yeah, exactly. And if they did, they would have went, okay, cool. Why wasn't the Book of Ashanti ever brought up beforehand? Why wasn't Doctor Strange at the end of that stuff? And why does the Darkhold do that now? That doesn't make any sense. Why does Wanda have it? Where's Agatha? Okay, see, it would have created more confusion as opposed to have been homework. Overstretched, overcommitted, and under-involved. The article insiders who describe how Feige became so overwhelmed by the volume of decisions required that he would chase him in the halls to get feedback. Weeks of work would be discarded at last-minute changes from Feige, often with little time to implement fixes. No, that's supposed to be the Marvel magic. It's just like how the Thunderbolts, which, going back to what Bob Iger said, the first and best example of Marvel's new focus on quality over quantity, right? The post-credit scene and the reshoots that were very much in there, all you need to do is just pay attention to the length and color of Bucky's hair to just goes to show that, yeah, there were definitely reshoots that were in it. But the end credit scene, the 2:30, yeah, it was very much shot in a different way, and it was very much shot and filmed by the Russo brothers on the set of Avengers Doomsday 3 weeks before the film hit cinemas. Yeah, little time to implement fixes. And what was it? The first show, I think it was Agatha, was the first show to ever have a showrunner. Bruh. People who worked at Marvel in the early 2020s said it was challenging to secure enough time with Feige to get his feedback. The article states the implication Marvel projects it. Projects were failing because Feige couldn't be everywhere at once. Oh, so he was a micromanager, but he was horrible at actually micromanaging. Interesting. Feige has consistently leaned into the narrative of so-called Marvel fatigue. Again, yeah, just externalizing the failure. Oh, no, we're not putting out bad stuff. It's just everybody's tired with all the stuff we put out. So if we just focus it on like 3 regular concerted shits that hit the theaters, that's better than just like a prolonged day of nausea and diarrhea, right? The article quotes one fan, Leslie Rodriguez, who said, I loved it for so many years, but after all the TV shows and everything, it just started getting a little confusing and all over the place. Yeah, it's almost like, can we just like dig down a little bit? Okay, Leslie, just level with me for a second. If it was good, if it was memorable, if it had good characters, if it had a coherent plot that didn't assassinate everybody that it brought into it, would you still like it? Would you be watching? Would you be hanging on the seat? Because let's keep it a buck, okay? The amount of TV stuff that Disney puts on Disney Plus, or I'm sorry, Marvel puts on Disney Plus every year really isn't that much more, and is probably comparable to just simply one full season of a network television show. Even if they're putting out like how many shows did they put out last year? Okay, and last year is a little bit of a borked example because it was hindered a little bit, but still, okay, like even if they're putting out 3 shows a year, okay, like they did last year, and yeah, even one that had a truncated release like Echo. Did anybody remember that? No, exactly. It was 5 episodes in January, and then you had Agatha at the end of the year, which was 8 or 9, something like that. And well, hell, even just, go a little bit longer. Just go a little bit longer than a calendar year. I might be forgetting something in there as well because, a lot of these Marvel projects are totally forgettable. Just throw in Daredevil Born Again. Okay, just go with your what would have been a conventional release schedule if it wasn't for Kevin Feige blowing up the original production of Daredevil Born Again. It would have been released last year. So yeah, that's a fair comparison. 3, even if your quantity over quality selection for the MCU, 3 shows. So you have 2 series that have 9 episodes, so that's 18, and then you just go ahead and you throw the 5 episodes of Echo at the beginning, and 9 when it comes to Marvel is a very long series. Most of them have 7 or 8 episodes. Loki season 2 I think had 7. Secret Invasion, I'm pretty sure, was 6. So yeah, even if you have those 23 episodes of TV that they put out last year, how long's your average and network show or network series? 22, 23, 24 episodes? Yeah, exactly. But it's way too much if it's Marvel. Bro, if it was good, people would watch for a month or 2 or every other month or so whenever you release a project. But no, it's confusing and all over the place. But yes, that's not fatigue, it's frustration. Feige's strategy made the MCU inaccessible to casual viewers. Instead of creating entry points, the incorporated sprawl became a barrier to engagement. That's not the audience's fault. But when things fail, Feige gets involved. Okay, one of the more revealing details of the report is how Feige was largely absent from the production of the Marvels. Interesting. Okay, yeah, because Bob Iger, who said that, we don't need to bring it up anymore, but no, he was talking about the lack of structure and the lack of suits present during the production of the Marvels, if you can cast your mind back to late 2023, early 2024. Only getting deeply involved after Quantumania bombed. The piece notes the filmmakers of the Marvels got a little attention from the overstretched Feige after Quantumania bombed. Feige became more involved, hoping to avoid a second faceplant 1 year. Oh, yeah, in 1 year. Yeah, which is interesting because Quantumania was followed up by Guardians of the Galaxy 3, a James Gunn production, just in case you forgot. His name was all over the promotion of that one. It's a James Gunn movie under James Gunn's miniseries of James Gunn's. At one point in time, he was supposed to head the cosmic side of Marvel, and Feige was supposed to look at the more street-level stuff. Crazy how that timeline could have eventually played out, but I digress. How much input and how much say did he have in Guardians 3? I'm just wondering. But yeah, of course, in a move that reeks of desperation, Feige has brought back Robert Downey Jr. to play Doom and retitled the next Avengers film Avengers Doomsday. Yeah, because the Kang Dynasty, it was announced a couple years back. It was supposed to be in the theaters right now. We were supposed to have a new Avengers film out there. Did anybody go check that out? I haven't seen any box office reports on that. But yeah, no, the hasty decision to just, do away with Kang instead of just recasting him and then noticing that, oh yeah, everything is turning to shit around us. So what should we do? Should we really focus on telling seminal stories and building up proper characters? Nah, fuck it. Let's just jangle some keys, bring in the biggest villain that everybody knows in Doctor Doom, and have him played by our most recognizable face in Robert Downey Jr. Who cares if it costs $100 million and you bring in some hacks that haven't done anything outside of the MCU? Bring them all back because they were responsible for two of the biggest successes in the franchise's history. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, right. Tanking the most successful cinematic franchise of all time even further in the dirt, spending your last 2 rounds with the return of Tony Stark with the Avengers films, just burning the candle at both ends instead of addressing the root issue. Make a good fucking movie. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.